What's up, everybody? It's Mars Vindicator. Welcome to Quo Status, the opposite of status quo, where we talk freely about video games and, whatever the hell else we want. So as usual, I have my co-host here,
Queasy Crayfish.
And surprise, surprise, we're getting to the end of 2018, and it's actually been quite a decent year for video games. I have to say, I started this year off like 100% fully dedicated to being a video game collector. I had just picked up this like ridiculous bundle of games from a good friend of mine who lives in Japan. It was like a bunch of Saturn RPGs, a bunch of PlayStation stuff, Japanese Lunars, just all manner of ridiculousness. And I was going like full speed into collecting games, playing games, and all that. And I ended out the year with pretty much a Streets of Rage 2 vinyl and a Metal Gear Solid Legacy collection on my shelf. That's basically all I have left of all of that. So I went through quite the change as a gamer this year. For better or for worse. It is what it is. Queasy Crayfish, did you have any general game changers, any game changers this year?
I remember that bundle of games that we got from Japan, and I had some choice games from that as well that I couldn't play because I don't speak Japanese. And my whole plan was like, I'm gonna make all these videos and do all these posts and stuff and let's plays and analysis videos and all this stuff. And every time I would try to do it, I would just hate the results, or I would just I feel like I just kind of realized that that's just not my calling, is like sitting in front of a camera and talking off the top of my head. I'm just not good at it, as listeners probably are well aware at this point. But I have my moments sometimes, but still, it was just not. It's just I didn't like the results. I couldn't get behind it, and I just kind of was like, what's the point? I make all these videos or whatever and put them up, and it gets 2 views, every 6 months. Like, what am I even doing this for? Outside of just like the enjoyment of doing it, I guess, as a hobby or something. And even that couldn't really be enjoyed if I wasn't, if I didn't like the final results. And so I ended up not really, I bought all this equipment and stuff to record these things and, converting HDMI to AV and back and forth and, all these powered converters and pass-throughs and, you name it, capture cards and all this stuff. And now it just sits here, collects dust. So, and I do status quo/quo status, and that's probably good enough.
No, yeah, I'm definitely right there with you. I don't know. I think a lot of things happened this year that just kind of brought me out of gaming in that regard. Let's not even forget the fact that we were a part of a larger game network at the beginning of this year, and now we're pretty much just quo status. Shout out to all those guys though. Everybody who was a part of that. For a good little while there, we kind of had something going. But shout out to that. But it is what it is. And I think some of the things that happened this year was that, I have a whole podcast about, my manifesto and all this other type of stuff. But I think some of the biggest things that happened this year was me just realizing that I have to support the things that I really like that come out. And I should probably pay a lot less attention to everything else. And, we started off the year with like some dope news, some really, really dope news that has yet to really materialize. And that's that Retrobit was making those Dreamcast, Saturn and Genesis controllers.
Was that a year ago?
Yeah. They like just showed the beginning of the year. And, they're like, now they're on their website. They're like, coming soon. So I'm thinking that they will come out. But I think what that really did for me was just show that, developers and stuff, they're probably going to re-release some of this stuff. We got a Genesis Classics collection We got Shenmue. We got, Sega was going full on with their whole, Sega re-releases thing they always do. We got like full Mega Man collections. We got full Kingdom Hearts collections. We got all type of stuff. And it just made me feel like, why spend all this money on the used market when I could, cause it's like, for example, I went back in time, like I went back to play something like Final Fantasy VI, right? Like I wasn't a Super Nintendo owner when that game came out. So it kind of feels better to be able to actually give Square the money for that later on the GBA than it does to, buy it from some sweaty dude in the garage. You know what I'm saying? So I just enjoyed this year. I think I was like, wow, like I should probably just sit back and let all these things come out. Just get them when they come out. We got Katamari this year. We're going to go in a lot of these things, as we go on later, but the news for Onimusha, news about a new Streets of Rage. So I think that's kind of where I am with games now. I just kind of, when I don't want to force the nostalgia. I'm not going to like think about a good game that I played as a kid and then go buy it at the store. I'm just going to wait until it gets re-released. And we got a lot of good stuff like that this year I'm going to talk about. But that's just, I think, kind of one of the biggest changes for me. And so I just want to more so take things in as they come along and stop trying to make up for quote unquote lost time. But so with that being said, I think we should get into the games that we played this year, right?
Okay. So
I'm gonna go down my list, and this list is pretty much in release order. There may be like one or two that are like out of order, but we started off the year with Street Fighter V Arcade Edition. They finally added a mode into the game. Should have been there at launch. Then we went to Dragon Ball Fighter Z, Monster Hunter World, Dissidia T, Shadow of the Colossus, Dynasty Warriors 9, Fist of the North Star Lost Paradise. I played the Japanese version. Kirby Star Allies, Far Cry 5, Yakuza 6, God of War, the Genesis Classics Collection, the Street Fighter 30th Anniversary Collection, Agonizing Agony, Fighting EX Layer, BlazBlue Cross Tag Battle, Mario Tennis, Sonic Mania Plus, the Octopath Traveler, Shenmue 1 and Shenmue 2, Dragon Quest 9, the Capcom Beat 'em Up Bundle, NBA 2K19, Spider-Man, FIFA 19, Blops 4, Super Mario Party, Soul Calibur 6, the Spyro Reignited Trilogy, Pokemon Let's Go, Katamari Damacy Reroll, and Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. What a way to end the year. So that's pretty much everything I played this year. And you want to know what my game of the year is?
What is it?
Give me a drum roll. Snatcher.
Man, you're stealing my thunder.
No, not actually. I'll probably discuss that later as like, a groundbreaking thing I did play this year. It was a whole game. But out of this list of games, let me see. Which one of these games did I enjoy the most this year? Man. Some of them are like remakes and stuff, but I think the remakes can count. I think out of all these games that I played this year, well, that definitely gets like the Razzie Award or whatever you want to call that. I guess it describes itself. You don't have to ask the guy at GameStop, how are you going to feel when you get this game?
You're going to feel in agony. He just points at the title.
Exactly. It's called that for a reason. I never seen anything more straightforward. Man, this is honestly a tough one. I don't know which of these games. Well, I'll give some honorable mentions. Probably we'll start off. Probably say definitely. Though it wasn't all of what I expected it to be, Fighter Z definitely gets honorable mention. This is the Dragon Ball Z fighting game that Dragon Ball Z, one of the 2D Dragon Ball Z game got me into emulation, got me into all this type of stuff. So I just shout out that game exists. That's very dope. Fist of the North Star Lost Paradise. It's always great to see Kenshiro back. It's always great to see another Yakuza game. So that's dope. Genesis Classics Collection. I know,
Crusader.
right? Right, exactly. Yeah, Light Crusade. That was like a new game for us this year. It was dope to be able to play those Genesis games, and not just on the regular consoles, but I bought it on the Switch as well. So it's good to have that portably. No more PSP emulation for me. Octopath Traveler, dope classic RPG. Dragon Quest 9 was very good. Spider-Man was definitely very good. I really enjoyed Mario Party. Welcome back Soul Calibur. Welcome back Katamari. And I mean, Let's Go and Smash Bros. Man, this is a hard one. I think it's a toss up for me between Let's Go and Spider-Man.
Wow.
That's tie for my game of the year.
Not Red Dead Redemption 2.
Man, I forgot that game on the damn list. I didn't put it on the list. Damn.
I forgot to put it on the list. That wasn't on my list either.
Yeah. So I did play Red Dead Redemption 2, but it is not my game of the year. It's not. We talked a lot of mess about that game. I ended up liking it a bit more a little later. It's definitely fun, but it just, I mean, come on guys. Like, I don't have to tell you, like, I mean, objectively, the game is great, right? Go out and buy it if you don't have it, whatever, you'll probably like it, but it's just not my game of the year. It didn't hold my attention like that. Not like Let's Go and not like Spider-Man. I'll get into why I chose those games. Queasy, let's hear your list and your honorable mentions and then your game of the year.
Okay. So this year, this is in no particular order. I played, this is just games that came out this year. Dark Souls Remastered, Sega Genesis Classics, Agony, God of War, Monster Hunter World for like 4 seconds. I'm counting this even though I didn't actually physically play the game, but I watched an entire Let's Play of Detroit Become Human, and I feel like that's
same thing.
That's probably, I mean, some people played the game and didn't even beat it. At least I watched the whole thing. And it's, with a game like that, that's saying something. So anyway, Smash Brothers Ultimate, Octopath Traveler, Dead Cells, Soul Calibur 6, Shenmue 1 and 2, Black Ops 4, and Red Dead Redemption DOS. Now, okay, so honorable mentions. Well, first of all, let me explain Agony, because that game was like, I was so hyped for that game because I have this like thing about like, oh man, like going to literal hell, like that. I don't know, that's just like fascinating to me for some reason, especially in a game. Like I love the stages in Doom 3 where you get to go to hell, and there's all these demons and it's all crazy and stuff's upside down and, it's crazy screams and hellfire and brimstone and all of that stuff. So I was like, okay, this game looks cool. It's like actually trying to make like a biblical, accurate hell or something like that. But then it just turned out that like it was this weird, like halfway point between like a silly Doom type game and like some actual horror game. And it was just terrible. Like the graphics looked really good when the camera wasn't moving at all. And as soon as it started moving, it looked terrible. And it was like, just, Kickstarter, hashtag Kickstarter. That was that whole game, so don't buy it. Don't ever play it. Awful. I think I got like an hour into that. I was streaming it. I streamed like an hour of that, and I remember like I wasn't even streaming it with the sound on for some reason. Like the game sound was not even audible. So like I screwed that up. But even so, it was just like I think I made it an hour in, and I'm like, I got better things to do. So terrible game. Don't buy it. I'm not even letting the reviews color me on that one. It was just a terrible game. So that's Agony. Go play Light Crusader instead. That was my whole review for that game. Play Light Crusader instead. Anyway, honorable mentions. I would have to Dead Cells. I think people should check that out. I feel like that game was slept on big time. Really interesting, unique game. Kind of like the Metroidvania style, but it has this unique progression system where like when you die, you literally go back to the beginning of the entire game. And like, the whole concept of progression changes in that sense. Cause like, at this point, it's like, you're not trying to make it, like to the next stage. You're just trying to make it up to like where you were and then maybe a little bit afterwards and trying to remember how things went. And even though it does randomly generate some stuff, but it's like, I don't know. It just was a really unique twist, I thought, on the concept of progression and like death in a game. And that's coming from someone who was a Dark Souls player. So Dead Cells, definitely. Check that one out. Octopath Traveler as well. I didn't make it nearly as far as I would have liked in that game because it was very good and I love traditional turn-based RPG. I feel like the art style was could have been a little bit more. I mean, it was definitely going for that like old school thing, but could have been. It didn't really have to go that far into like the pixel art category. But other than that, I think great gameplay, good story, good characters. Easy to fall into. And I mean, I don't know, honorable mentions. I don't really know what else I can. There's nothing else I really want to put on that list. Nothing else that I really feel like was a standout for me. Everything else was just kind of as expected. So if I had to pick a game of the year, well, first of all, let me just say the most like profound gaming experience I had this year was either playing Shenmue 1 and 2 over and over again, or it was playing Yakuza Kiwami, which didn't come out this year, so I can't even count that. So those two experiences were, one is a re-release of two games that came out, almost 20 years ago, and the other one is, an old game anyway. So let's just let that stand, and I will say that God of War probably has to be my game of the year, even though I didn't even get close to finishing it. I do plan to at some point, and when I was playing it, I was really enjoying it and really thinking, man, this is what games in this generation should feel like. And so, yeah, that's what I'm going with.
Okay. Well, I definitely did like God of War, but I guess for me, I just don't think I played it enough for me to even count it. But so yeah, for me, Spider-Man and Let's Go. And I think the reason why I picked Spider-Man and Let's Go is because kind of like what I was talking about earlier about how I came into this whole year trying to like, intentionally bring nostalgia to myself and, remember the good times. And what it was doing was it was kind of killing my actual opportunities for nostalgia, and so Spider-Man and, Let's Go kind of brought that to me. And I mean, and this was, of course, that's a very like personal way of looking at those games. I mean, aside from those, I think they're both very objectively like great games. And they both like, both those games surprised me, in ways, I didn't think that they would be good in certain ways, but they were. First, with Spider-Man is just a good tried and true single player game, right? Like that's the stuff that the PlayStation was founded on, right? Like just this dope 30, 40 hour experience. It's not a gaming game for a bunch of kids. It's not a bunch of multiplayer. It's like this single player adventure, a bunch of action, a good story. And, it's going to end, right? It's not super long. It's not all about, lasting forever.
That's funny because I remember playing Knights of the Old Republic back in the day and being like, man, this game's like 40 hours. Right. Thinking that was crazy.
Oh no, yeah, that's just the norm. Yeah, that's too short. People were complaining about it being too short. But I mean, yeah, I loved it. I mean, and they're putting out DLC. There was a lot of like collectibles and things to go around. It sort of kind of had that like Ubisoft for me a little bit. It felt like, but they just did such a good job of, representing a Marvel hero. And I think it felt so great being Spider-Man as well, because, for a little while, Spider-Man had kind of become a bit of a laughing stock. He got kind of trashed. In the 90s, Spider-Man was, arguably the top superhero, period, Definitely arguably. I mean, Batman was still big and, the X-Men obviously, but, Spider-Man was up there. And then you come into the 2000s and he just got, kind of taken over by the rest of, Marvel, with them having good movies, him having trash movies. So, added with this new movie that just came out. I mean, this game really, I felt, brought him back to being like that, like he's that guy. And, I think what made it dope was just kind of the way that they start the game off. It's not the whole origin story. You're not crying about Uncle Ben, it's just like you start off the game like he's Spider-Man, like nothing else. He is Spider-Man. Mary Jane is in it, et cetera, et cetera. And, the fights are good. The action is good. There's like very good pacing with, it doesn't like take you out of the action too much. What usually seems that this always happens to me when I like get like a new dope game. I'll get like a new like tight game and I'll be like playing a bunch of stuff. I'm like, oh man, like the combat's tight. It's like, it's dope as hell. And you do this. And then like my friend will come over to see it. And then they'll always come over like right at that point when you go to like this long dumbass part where like you like don't do anything. You just listen to a bunch of shit or like don't do something. You know what I'm saying? And then they're like, yo, this game sucks. And like Spider-Man didn't really have that. Like there would be a couple of scenes where you'd have some cutscenes or whatever, but it kept the action up, and it was paced, throughout the game. So, you get that kind of new school, well, not even new anymore, but like that kind of PS1, PS3 era, like this is like a cinematic adventure, but then you also get that good, like beat 'em up feel to it. So that game was dope. Pokemon Let's Go. I mean, this is obviously a remake of the original, red, blue, and yellow or green. And I had low expectations because I thought that they were going to like take a lot of stuff out of the game. A lot of the things that make the later competitive games good. But actually it's actually a pretty refreshing take on Pokemon. I mean, pretty much the only things that you're really missing when it comes to, the competitive play is like things like breeding. So you can like breed moves or like, breed a bunch of Pokemon. And there's also no special abilities, right? But you still have natures. You still have, the IVs, the stats, all that stuff is there. All the types are there. And they did a good job too, trying to get representation for like the types and the moves that they added on later, like Fairy and Steel, cause they have like Melmetal in the game and all of them. And you get like some good Fairy moves on like other Pokemon who wouldn't have had them. Like, even Arcanine gets one. So, and then on top of that, now you have this list of only 153 Pokemon, not including the Alolan types. But you also get the Megas as well. So it's like, cause later, I mean, when you're trying to balance out 890 monsters, it just gets absurd, but now you got 150. So there's like, pretty good tiered play. I mean, you're going to see a lot of the same Pokemon online, but but they still, made it, it's like a good middle ground between like the old games. It's not like Mewtwo kills everybody, right? But it's also not like this infinite number of teams and possibilities. So I really liked it. You could still have a lot of competitive fun with that game. You can do a lot of trading. And then it was just dope to revisit that experience again. And I think what was really tight about that game was like, this was that game that really brought Pokemon to life. Like, this is how we all saw Pokemon back then. Cause, and there's these little small touches, like the way that you can let any Pokemon out of the ball and you can, watch them interact with things around them. Some of them run, some of them fly, Staryu spins. You can ride on some of them, some you can't. They like really give life to each and every Pokemon. This was how we imagined it back in the day. It wasn't just, just Pikachu. You know what I'm saying? We wanted to see what all of them could do. And then, even the idea of having like, really good size comparisons, not even just in battle, but like outside of battle, you can see the Onix in the, in the cave, when you're in the cave and like a Machoke just starts running at you, you're like, oh shit, that's what it would be like, a big buff monster, man, And so, yeah, like that was like nostalgia plus, right? Like it didn't just like, it wasn't just a remake of the old games. It was like a reimagining as to how we would have actually seen that game, at the time. So that was really dope. And then too, it wasn't, you don't just play as like the original character. You play as like a younger one. So like there was other characters like Gary and like the, the original trainer, like they're in the game. It's almost like you're doing what he did like later. Right. So it's tight. It's extremely tight. It's the best way I think that they could have done a remake of those games. They're accessible, but they still have a lot of stuff in there for the longtime Pokemon fans. So hands down, Spider-Man and Let's Go, I think are my games of the year.
Okay. Dual game of the year.
Dual. Can't choose one.
Well, those are both two games that kind of, I think, defied your expectations, didn't they?
Oh, yeah. Because, one was just, Pokemon Go with battles, and the other one was just like a trash-ass movie game, right? But, like, they're so far from both of those descriptions. Because everything else I kind of thought it would be what it was. Now, there's definitely some Razzies in this list. People think games that defy my expectations the other way, like Dynasty Warriors 9. I mean, it just has no multiplayer. Like, what the hell is that? They added the update later, so I guess it's gotten a little doper, but, I just couldn't be bothered. Everything else on this list, though, was kind of like as I expected it to be. But those two games really surprised me. Not just taking anything away from the other games, though.
What was the worst one, then? Dynasty Warriors?
I would say all things considered, probably so, yeah. Because, every other game on this list I actually, like, played and enjoyed. Dynasty Warriors, I actually, like, returned it before I even opened it the first time I got it. Because I just... Because, it's like... Because, I try not to let myself get influenced by reviews, right? But that was like a very objective thing. Like, it has no multiplayer. Like, it didn't matter to me how good the game was. It's like that description I always give. It's like you go to McDonald's and you order a Big Mac and they give you a large pizza, right? Like, nobody says the large pizza tastes bad, but this is not a Big Mac, And
no multiplayer. That's like, you buy a car and they're like, oh yeah, it doesn't have, I don't know, some vital, it doesn't have, it doesn't have a seat.
Yeah, right. Like, so you just gotta like lay in like the cab.
It works.
Yeah, like it's, and it's like, come on, like Dynasty Warriors, that's like the sole, beat 'em up franchise from the PS2 era that stayed, and you just have no multi. You're trying to turn this into a single player action adventure? No, we have enough of those. So that's probably that was hands down like the worst on the, I think I did a pretty good job with getting games. Well, I wouldn't say I only got games that were good. I think I just kind of can find the good in games or just kind of like games. Nothing else but all these games on the list they're pretty well reviewed as well though, so everything else
except Agony.
Yeah, exactly. Except Agony, Everything else was good. Not too many other criticisms. Fighting EX Lair was a bit rough at first. They did not include much in that original base game, but they've added, stuff since, Yeah, everything else was, it's pretty good.
So, I guess one thing to kind of change gears here, the one thing that I kind of came to terms with as well this year was I just don't have any patience for multiplayer stuff anymore, and I just don't I have to stop myself from buying games where like the main focus is going to be multiplayer. So I'm kind of worried about that with like when Mortal Kombat 11 comes out, because I really want to play that, and I'm luckily it's supposed to have some big expansive story mode or whatever. So that's a good thing. Like Smash Bros, it was kind of like the Spirits mode is like, that's all I could want in a fighting. I don't even mind that it takes a long time to unlock the characters, or that you have to do some, like you were saying, you were telling me the other day, like, oh, you gotta, go into the game and then exit out of it and then go back in and do all this stuff. Like, I don't even need to do that. Like, just the very process of unlocking stuff in a fighting game is like this hugely missed thing about that genre to me. to where like I don't even mind, you know, like I don't even mind that there's 70 characters yet to unlock practically. Like like that's a beautiful thing because that gives me something to do other than focus on, you know, learning combos and it's just all this like just garbage that just does not interest me. Like Soul Calibur 6 was kind of disappointing to me. I mean, I guess I like the fighting, like I like the characters and the story and everything, but like I have no compulsion to play it because there's nothing to do in that game other than, you know, go online and fight people where you can play this kind of weird half-baked story mode and shit. You know, like I just don't. Like, you know, I tried really hard to go online and I tried to get better and stuff for a few days and, you know, and it's just like, I'm tired of like going in there and there's some guy who's using, you know, some ridiculous creative character and he does the same move over and over again. And, you know, I have input lag on my screen and I'm not, you know, it takes me too long to figure out what he's doing. So I can't, you know, and I get killed and perfect, you know, and then I'm just mad, you know, because I know I'm better than the person, but it's like, you know, you're playing online and ranked and there's nothing you can do about it. Plus the connections, you know, in Brazil or something like that. And it's just like, I just don't have the patience for that and I'm not going to bother with it. And so like games like that and, you know, even Tekken and Mortal Kombat coming out, like, I just wonder how much, you know, how much bang for my buck am I really going to get out of Mortal Kombat 11? If the story mode is trash and there's nothing to unlock and it's all just esports, you know, competitive nonsense, just like Black Ops, you know, like how deep into it am I going to get? I mean, because Mortal Kombat 9, when that came out, like I played that for a long time just because there was like stuff to do and I don't know, it seemed like a much bigger game as opposed to now where everything's just esports and multiplayer and online and stream your game and, you know, build your fan base and post your crazy clips and whatnot. Like I just can't do it anymore. So that was one big revelation I feel like I had sort of towards the end of this year.
No, I think I could definitely stand behind that in some ways. I mean, I do, you know, the thing, you know, with a game like Tekken, for example, like Tekken is like a bad example for me to give because I just kind of maintained this like decentness in it over the years. And so I do enjoy that game competitively. I enjoy like casual matches much more, like with people that I know, because then you can go back to back with them. You know, you can really fight them, really see the things that they're doing. And yeah, and you never get that feeling, you know, like you got cheated, you know, like, oh, like this guy just did the same move. I knew if I had like 3 games with him, you know, I could beat him. Cause yeah, that's definitely real. So like in Tekken, I can kind of deal with it, but honestly, I kind of feel the same way. I also kind of, you know, Soul Calibur came out and it had a lot of the flair of the old game at first, but then you just kind of soon realize like, well, yeah, like I'm just, you know, cause like none of the stuff that you unlock, you really even unlock, you know, like there's just like a couple of character creation pieces that you have to pay for. But everything else is like, you pretty much have, you know, you have all the characters, you have all the stages, everything is just right there. So yeah, you don't feel the need to do anything else. You don't feel the need to play the story mode, you know?
Right. And that was a huge component of Soul Calibur 1 and 2, possibly 3 as well. I don't remember. I think 3, yeah, as well. 4 might have been even, but I mean, like at least 3 entries in that series where that was like a huge part of the game was unlocking things.
Well, you know, and see, I think one thing too that is like kind of hurt some games, but this hasn't quite hurt Smash, is like, you know, back in those days, you know, you'd have your cousins over and, you know, oh, let's put in Soul Calibur on Dreamcast. And we would just play it. You know, we would just enjoy playing it. You know, it wasn't necessarily, I mean, yeah, we were in a sense competing, but none of us were like tournament players. It was just like a game people played. And then when you ask people on the street, oh, you play Soul Calibur? Oh yeah, that game's sweet. You was killing, you know. And it was kind of like that with Tekken for a little bit. Oh, yeah, I play Tekken. You know, it's like that. You know, it's like, it used to be like that with Street Fighter, right? It was like kind of just that game that like everybody kind of just would play, you know, one of those games, especially when, you know, whenever they would be out. Cause they're just, I can't say that there weren't as many games out, but like, in a way, kind of, mostly because like every game, you had to go to the store and buy it. So it felt like there were less, and it kind of felt like people were kind of playing a lot of the same stuff. Whereas I guess now people are playing a lot of the same stuff, but the issue is most of it is like, you're playing at home, like online, right? So when you take a game like that, some of the like just fun, like invite friends over and pass the controller, like a lot of that feeling is just gone from it now, right? Because nobody's just going to want to come over and play Soul Calibur or just play Tekken. It doesn't have that kind of appeal like it used to. But you know what game does have that appeal? Smash Bros, right? Like Smash Bros still has that appeal where it doesn't matter if you're like super competitive, you know, you can, I'll have friends over, we'll, you know, no items, Final Destination 1v1s, we'll do that. And then we'll change the, you know, 4-player, 8 CPUs, all the items, crazy stages, and just fuck around, you know, and you can just do that, you know, time after time after time after time. Everybody can enjoy it. It's accessible to anybody. You can get 8 players on one TV, you know, it's fun. I'll be honest. The only reason I even went through and did those characters like that was because I just wanted to have Greninja, and literally he was like number 70 for me, like including the characters that I got, like literally he was like right at the end. So, if I had got him a lot sooner, I probably would have slowed down on that. Because I did, but it was, you know, after that, it was only a matter of time, you know, before I got everybody else. But yeah, and even still, going through that story mode, going through the spirits mode is still dope because you get those like weird fights that include like the spirits from other games. Mm-hmm. And so like, you just never know what you're going to fight, you know, like, oh, I'm fighting Zelda with an assist from Fatal Frame that's taking pictures of me. Like, what the hell, you know? So you get all that absurd stuff, but then each character still has their own, you know, 6 or 7 fight story mode as well. And those have a lot of like stuff in them. So yeah, there's a lot of content there to play. And so I do overall feel the same way I think about competitive games. I think we just kind of went along with that because that's what people were doing. That was the thing. But I'll hand it back to you in case you have something to say about that. But, it kind of connects into my next thing, which is, I think my 2 best experiences this year with games have been Snatcher and the Talos Principle. But I'll wait on that. Do you have anything else to say about this before I go there?
Not really. The only thing I would say is like one observation I had with unlocking things in Smash Bros so far was just like, I feel like the act of unlocking things makes whatever you unlock cool, even if it's lame. Cause like there's so many, like I unlock, you know, it's like how many different like, you know, I don't even know, like some of the characters you unlock in there, they're just like
Duck Hunt.
Well, not even that, like, you know, Villager or whatever, you know, like, just, yeah, like some of that stuff is just
Game and Watch.
Yeah, like some of that is just like, wow, that's really lame. But for some reason, like, you know, a new challenger, and it's like, you know, this thing where it's like, oh, I gotta, you know, if I win this, I unlock them, and you know, and then they get added to the character select screen. Like that just makes it cool, you know, even though like I'm never gonna play that character, never even gonna select them, you know, like. Just the act of doing that is cool. And it used to be like that back in the day with like Soul Calibur 2, where you're like, oh, I unlocked, you know, Rock. Oh, cool, you know, but like I'm never going to use Rock, you know, but it was just cool doing that. So yeah, I think, and just, yeah, I said it with Black Ops too, where it's just like, man, like I can't deal with, that's why I love Blackout mode, because like you can't really hear anybody, and it's all just like this kind of self-contained thing where you can just do it over and over again, and you know, this big map, and you can explore things that way. But like just the multiplayer was just awful. Like I couldn't even begin to get into it, because it was just, you know, you go in there and there's some crazy person that's on day one and they got some, you know, gun with, you know, diamond plated arm, you know, stock on it or whatever, and they're got some crazy reticle on their site, and they're doing weird stuff in their 8th prestige, and the game hasn't even been out, 10 hours yet. You're just like, what is going on here, and they're streaming, and it's just like, I'm not even going to get involved with that. I don't have the patience for that. I'm not going to play in a match where every person on my team and on the other team is trying to, create some content while they're playing. Like, that's just an awful way to run a blind lobby in a multiplayer game. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
No, yeah, I think, I think I can definitely get behind a lot of those points. Like I said, I mean, I do what I do in Tekken, but yeah, the thought of doing that in another game, especially in this, time of my life is just absurd. I'm not going to become a great Street Fighter player now. It's that time, the ship has sailed,
Yes.
But,
quite frankly.
No, and it's funny because it seems to happen at the end of the year. I play Snatcher, more towards the middle of the year, but right now I've been playing this game called the Talos Principle, and it has just that's Smokey there. He must like that game too.
It's a meowing good time,
right? And it just kind of reaffirmed a lot of this for me. Probably the most similar game that's maybe mainstream that people know or may know about that's similar to Talos Principle kind of is Myst. But I don't think it's really that similar to Myst, actually. I think the way the puzzles and everything is set up is a lot different, but it kind of has that isolation on this, vast, natural, but cool looking, area and et cetera, et cetera. But you just go through all these puzzles, and it just constantly challenges your mind and makes you think of how to get out of these puzzles, right? And there's pretty much nothing in the game but that, right? There's other kinds of puzzles for other kinds of things that you unlock and do, but everything is about a puzzle, So, there's a little bit of voice, a little bit of talking, but usually it happens while you're playing or just in between the puzzles. So it doesn't really stop you or anything. But yeah, I mean, I love it because it's a game where you can just turn it on. You can do a couple of those. You could turn it off, and it not to say that things like fighting games and all that stuff or whatever doesn't challenge you, but I think this is a little bit of a different type of challenge. This feels like one of those real brain exercises, is it kind of when you're playing a game, you're doing those things within the rules of the game, Mm-hmm. You're playing Tekken. Not to say that there isn't any general logic in it, but it's this is Tekken logic, But in the Talos Principle, with the way the puzzles are, I mean, it is still a game, there's still, its own thing, but it just feels more it's general logic that can be applied when you figure things out and when you think about the steps that it takes to complete the puzzles and all that. And it for me is extremely fulfilling. It's not competitive or anything, but I just really love sitting back and playing that. I mean, it may be because I'm getting older, maybe because I'm getting more boring, but yeah, I just don't want to run around, time to jump off the ship, Fortnite map. I'm just 230 for that. And then Snatcher. I mean, that's just this is a text adventure game, right? It's cyberpunk text adventure game. The original one was made in 88 or 89 or something. And this, I played the Sega CD version. I didn't buy it because I spent $500 on that. But, played that one. It's from 93 or whatever. I mean, it's beautiful. You know what I'm saying? It's just great. I mean, of course for the time, there's great art, great scenes, definitely great music. And I mean, and it's one of those games that just straight up feels like it was made to be a piece of art, right? It was made to be just this beautiful artistic experience, right? And I mean, and it's Hideo Kojima. So what else, would you expect? But I mean, I just had the time of my life sitting up and playing that game. And, you know, I, like in this whole time that I've been collecting games, I think like Snatcher, well, that I had been collecting games, Snatcher, Light Crusader, and Tokyo Extreme Racer were pretty much the only old games that I had never played that like really had a huge impact on me. Right. And so I think that says a lot with how a lot of those games, you know, just, I mean, like, sometimes old games are just old games, you know, not necessarily good. But, yeah, I mean, those are just, they're probably just hands down my two best gaming experiences of the year. It reminds me a lot of last year. It's kind of what I was getting at when I was talking about last year, because I did the same thing with Persona 5. Like, I got at the end of the year and it just changed up everything for me. And that's, of course, a single player experience. And so, yeah, I mean, and recently I've definitely been getting a lot, like back a lot into single player stuff or like gaming socially, right? Cause that's, you know, you can get competitive in Smash, but I like having Mario Party or Smash because you can just play it socially. You know, you can have people over, play it, drink, you know, just have a good ass time, you know, and just come home. I mean, I'm stressed out at work, you know what I'm saying? And you think I want to plug up my arcade stick, you know, and get on the mic. Like, I don't feel like doing that shit, man. You know,
gotta hit these combos. Exactly. Gotta get some sets in.
Getting all pissed off. I just can't do it, you know. And I mean, shout out to those that do, but it's just not for me.
Yeah. I mean, Talos Principle sounds like something I would like, so I definitely want to get into that. I remember seeing that game every time I would look on like a Myst related page on Steam or something like that. They would always recommend that game. So I'm definitely down for that because I do love Myst and I love those point and click adventure games. Not that Talos Principle is point and click necessarily, but, you know, puzzle based, kind of exploration aesthetic games like that. I always love puzzle games, actually. Like puzzle games. That's why kind of why I like cinematic platformers. I think we talked about that on an episode. You know, Limbo, Inside, Flashback, Another World, all of those games like that where it's like, you know, there's all these obstacles in front of you and you have usually you have, you know, either like nothing at your disposal, you know, like in Myst, like you don't use any tools or, you know, there's no guns or anything like that. Like, right. It's just you in your brain, you know, and you have to figure out what to do. Or like a game like Flashback, you know, where it's like you only have so many hits and you have this very frail kind of slow character and, you know, kind of ineffectual weapons. And, you know, it's just kind of like, how am I going to get through this obstacle course, you know, with this very precise, controls and everything. And, like, that stuff like that, like, cause I mean, there is some of that in fighting games where I feel like you can, you know, people will argue, oh, you know, fighting games are so cerebral and, you know, and I guess people that are really competitive and really good at it, you know, they can predict what you're going to do next and all this, but like, I just have never, like, my brain just doesn't work that fast. I don't have reactions like that. So for me, it's much more fun. Like, I think it was last year or the year before I sat down and played Rem, which is like a Myst clone. And I tried to play it without any like FAQ or help or anything like that. And it was just like, you know, all puzzles and, you know, crazy, really, really hard puzzles. I think that series has a reputation for that. And like, you know, every time you get through a new one and you figure something out, it's like this, oh, you know, now I understand and it all makes sense. And I think there really is I think like that is actual, like a healthy kind of feeling to get from a game. So yeah, like I definitely anything like that, I'm down for that. Any kind of puzzle based thing.
No, yeah, definitely. You know, because yeah, I do think that shit is healthy.
Yeah, I mean it has to be. It's like doing Sudoku or something like that.
Right.
If I had to point to like profound gaming experiences for me this year, I mean, you know, like I already said, like Shenmue 1 and 2 and Yakuza, I think were it for me. Yakuza Kiwami, I got that Black Friday last year. And by then it was already an old game. But I got it and I started it And it's funny because like I looked through like my saves on that game, and it's like, you know, I had like, or I think it was actually, no, it was the trophies. Like I look at the trophies, and it was like chapter 2 was completed like in, you know, like 2016, and like chapter, you know, 13 was, or chapter 4 was completed, you know, like 2018 or something. It was just this like huge gap of time. But, yeah, I mean, just like getting into that, and I mean, I got really deep into that game, and I was playing it like any spare time that I had, just because like the fighting was so fun, and unlocking things and doing the completion list, and the way that they do side quests in that game, I think is really, really cool. I mean, like they just kind of like confront you with this thing, and they're short. You know, you can beat them in like 5 minutes. And it, you know, it doesn't feel like it's really taking away from like the central, you know, thrust of the story or anything like that. And you get rewarded pretty well with that stuff. I mean, I don't think I even came close to running out of money in that game. Like, you know, like 200, you know, or probably more than that, probably like 2 million yen or something like that at the end of the game. And so, I mean, it was just a really fun experience, and really fun to get into that series and see what it was all about. But I think most profound definitely has to go to Shenmue 1 and 2, just because like I hadn't really played those games all the way through since like they first came out. And so to play them again almost 20 years later, and to experience it again, and to, you know, like view it as an adult, and to interpret things differently, and to, you know, see all the connections and the drama and the way the characters worked and everything, it was just a really unforgettable experience, I thought. And I was glad that it was, because I was really expecting that, you know, I'd fire up Shenmue again and I'd be like, oh, this game sucks, you know. Because that happens sometimes. It's a game you really love and you go back to it and it just turns out to be, you know, something you liked when you were a kid. But I think Shenmue, for me, it was quite the opposite, and just reinforced that, you know, because I always kind of went back and forth, like, oh yeah, my favorite games, you know, Sonic 3, you know, oh, you know, Half-Life 2, stuff like that. But I mean, there can be no debate after playing that again, like that's it. So definitely that was it.
Well, yeah, you know, I think overall, it's funny. I mean, you know, I definitely have a totally different view of games, and, you know, what I want to do with games and all that after this year. This will probably honestly be like the most memorable year of gaming for me, maybe ever, simply because, I mean, well, for one, a good portion of it is documented, right? You know, right. We have status quo, and quo status. I mean, there was just so many big things. Like I said, I mean, I started off this year with, I mean, a library of games, that grew, and then all the way down to now. I mean, I think I might have 40 games, you know, versus when the year started, I probably had, or like at my height, probably close to 1,000, if not more, you know.
Wow.
So, yeah, I mean, it was just, you know, I don't have an Xbox One anymore.
Oh no.
Right.
Oh no.
You know, it just, I mean, and, you know, so many changes, you know, like I said, you know, Hyper Evo, and just, you know, yeah, just really coming to terms with, you know, what I like in games. And, you know, it's been consistent, you know, it's, you know, no matter where I am or what it is that I want to play. I mean, Streets of Rage 2, I'm going to enjoy, you know what I'm saying? You know, Tekken, I'm going to enjoy, you know, some good social gaming on a Nintendo system, I'm going to enjoy, you know, so just can't lose sight of that.
Yeah. Also, I just wanted to throw in there, I think like like a memory for me that I'll probably have for a really long time was us playing and discovering Light Crusader. Well, and really just the whole, I mean, just like being at your house and playing that. And I mean, it felt like old times, you know, where it was like, wow, you know, this game, you know, we never even heard of it. And like, oh, it just turned, you know, because a lot of the games they put on those collections are just like Dynamite Heady, E-SWAT, like just
Right.
stuff that's like good in name only, but like that was one, we had never even heard of that. And then we just started playing it and we're like, wow, this is actually good.
Right.
And like really intricate and interesting. And, how have we never heard of this game? And then I remember like we looked up the review scores and it had like, average reviews. And we're like, what is this? And that just like cemented our opinion about reviews. And of course we were playing other games too. I remember we can't forget that Shadow Dancer is not Shinobi. We cannot forget this.
Yeah. Everybody.
We were streaming, at the time, and so we were playing Shadow Dancer, and a guy came in and informed us that Shadow Dancer is not Shinobi. So that's.
I mean, there's no way it could be. It has a different title. It's like,
well, yeah,
the Jacksons is not the Jackson 5. That's a different group. Everybody, okay?
Yeah, everyone knows this.
Totally separate. Those are other Jacksons. How. Yeah, exactly. That's what happens when you stream. You get weirdos who come in there and do weird shit, Yeah, I mean, yeah, and that was like, that's exactly what I mean. I think honestly, probably playing Light Crusader on the Genesis collection was probably one of the things that got me out of this. Cause one of the biggest, like between that game, even, I would have these like, everybody come over, we're going to play retro games and stuff. And I would like pull out some old ass game and put it in and people would kind of be like, put in Tekken 7, and then we would just, play something that just came out. And it was just like, man, like these games are cool, but when you go in retro, you kind of really, which kind of makes sense to me now when people just love Nintendo stuff, because that's some of the more like generalized stuff. I mean, if you add a bunch of people over to play retro games and you throw in Mario Kart on Super Nintendo, like it's gonna be fun, or Mario Kart 64. Of course, it's gonna be fun. It's fun because it's Mario Kart, and that's not necessarily because it's retro, and that just like holds true. And that that was with that. It was like, man, Queasy comes over. I just have walls and walls, shelves and shelves of games, right? And we don't play any of it,
Play Light Crusader for like 4 hours.
Exactly. And we get on Light Crusader and it just organically happened that way. Like we just got 100% into the game. And that's what I mean. Like those experiences cannot, like you can't make that on purpose. You just can't. It does not happen. That just does not happen. 100% does not happen. I did have another experience kind of like that. And it's funny, I forgot to put this game on the list, but it was Warriors of Orochi 4. So that was another game that came out this year. So Red Dead Redemption, Warriors of Orochi. I'm sorry. I know I was going to miss some because it was just too many. But Mark Elliott came out here and we got on that and played it like it was old Dynasty Warriors. And we just played that story mode for a very long time. And that's what I mean. We were never going to get that with Dynasty Warriors because it didn't have multiplayer, But then Warriors of Orochi comes out and I mean, it's the same formula, but it has split screen. And I mean, we played it for hours. He was actually supposed to like leave that morning and he ended up staying until like 5 because we just got into the game, And it's funny because like after he left, I kind of didn't even feel like playing it at all. I was like this was fun because I was playing it, with another person,
Mm-hmm.
not competitively, not online, not random. Not to say that couldn't be fun, but it just, there's definitely, maybe it seemed like I was pretty down on games and games are trash. I don't necessarily think I'm down on games now. I think I just understand that, this, like, I should just let this stuff happen. Well,
I think it's funny that you mentioned that, like, multiplayer randoms online and stuff could be fun, but I think, like, at least from what I've seen and heard, like, watching, because, I mean, I watch streams, I watch, like, competitive players and stuff like that. Like, what everyone says is, like, that sucks, like playing ranked online. Like if you watch any competitive player, like Street Fighter or anything like that, and you ask them, what's better, like ranked online or going to a tournament or something like that, like they're never going to say ranked online. They're going to say it sucks. They're going to complain about the connection sucks. The competition is just random. You don't know what you're going to get. People are weird and they do weird stuff. They rage quit. They send you messages or they're just talking throughout the whole thing. Like there's just all kinds of things that are just awful about it. So I feel like that, maybe that experience just isn't, it just really isn't that good. And
no, I agree.
It's become this staple for some reason that, has to be in everything.
I think, I don't play, cause I don't play Fortnite, right? So I don't know what that online is like, but to this day, I have yet to personally play a ranked online game that did what Halo 3 did. Because that game, it was, I think it was just a combination of, the 360 kind of being like the core system at the time. So everybody had that. Everybody had a headset, right? Everybody seemed to talk. like for the most part. So like you would get a match and then like in the room, like you would just kind of get started and, even before the match started, people would be talking, woo, woo, shut the fuck up. You hear dogs, suck my dick, but then eventually it would like kind of turn into actual talking. And then sometimes by the end of those matches, or if you like kept getting into the same matches with the same people, these randos could kind of become your friends, right?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like that just does not exist really with fighting games, cause people kind of don't talk. And then, you just kind of get thrown into this match and then you get thrown out, and every now and then I'll like play somebody who I felt like, damn, like I feel like that was a good match and I'll add them. But it just usually doesn't turn into anything. They don't have a mic, it just, I don't, we could have just been younger at the time. Who knows, but that game, I've like at least for me, no game has yet to do that random thing as well as Halo 3 did, and so yeah, I think overall it probably just sucks. I think Halo 3 just had a great formula. It was like a great formula and a great time and it just worked. But
well, yeah, I could see that because I feel like, shooters, especially Halo at that time, it was kind of like quote unquote like more of an adult's game. Maybe not quite so much, adult in gaming terms is like 15, but
right.
Like even that's better than you go into Call of Duty now and it's just like, man, either they're like 10 years old or they're like some weirdo that's making content or something like that, or people that just are like sucking down protein shakes and they just got back from the gym and they're ready to get their aggression out or something. Like it's just a horrible mix of people. And, like there's no reason that you should go into a lobby and just like the first thing you do is just like mute everybody, and like,
Mm-hmm.
that's just terrible. Or just, not even attempt to engage with them.
See, so, man, I honestly, I kind of think a lot of that, I think it can happen in any game, but I think like most fighting games and like stuff like Call of Duty are just the worst place for that. Cause for fighting games, it's too short of an experience.
Mm-hmm.
And then with Duty, it's just that game that draws that crowd,
mm-hmm.
Even, it wasn't like way much better, but kind of at like the heyday of Destiny, I made some pretty good friends. Cause you kind of had like a lot of like other gamers who kind of like went to Destiny, so like you would just kind of get connected with some cool people sometimes. I did meet some cool people. And the other guys on Hyperevo, they obviously have their friends that they meet on there, I don't necessarily click with all them as well, but they definitely did. I think Destiny was all right for that for a little bit. But yeah, nothing is ever like, if you want to like probably meet like actual like interesting people who aren't just being all like silly, you probably just, people should just play like MMOs or something, right. And even there you can meet like some ridiculous people, like be online at 12 o'clock. We're in a clan. It doesn't matter. We got to harvest. like, I'm not doing that. You know, I'm not getting on here and farming no vegetables. You know what I'm saying? But, you know, I mean, it's just gonna suck. At the end of the day, I mean, and that's another thing too, which is funny. Like, I've met a lot of like other gamers this year, like while I was out collecting. And that's been tight too, because then you just like, you know, you just meet people to invite over and play games with. And even if you don't play the same games on the same stuff, you know, you just need some more human interaction, you know, like actual human interaction, you know, not just online, you know, where somebody's pissy and talking about suck my dick. You know what I'm saying? Like inviting people over, having some pizza and a beer and just, you know, playing Smash.
For sure.
You know. So that's been 2018. I think we've just, you know, we've had a lot of changes going on in our gaming preferences, you know, our gaming realities. I'm pretty excited going forward. So we will have at least another show this year, but that's a 2018 show. This is the final one, officially, you know. So there's that. Probably gonna play Talos Principle and enjoy my life as an old gamer. Probably gonna put some jazz music on, you know, put on my house coat, you know, pour up a little bit of whiskey.
See, I just finished the glass.
See,
you know, I will say, I feel like we reached you know, the gaming preferences changed, but I feel like we reached a desirable conclusion. You know, like I feel like we can be comfortable in these new adjustments that we've made, and you know, the philosophies that we've developed over the years. So, like, these are things that, you know, we can understand and appreciate going forward.
Most definitely. Well, thank you for listening, everybody. We're out of here. See you next week.
Y'all.